Welcome to Tigs Bits, where we chat about all of the important things in life, like crawfish, barbecue, music, and anything else that makes our taste buds tingle. Today, we are dishing on some of our best and some of our worst barbecue experiences, from finger licking good to the downright most disappointing. We're spilling the beans on all of it. So kick back, grab a cold one, and hey, if you like what you hear, give us a like. Hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, leave some comments. What's some of the best places you've ever eaten at? What's some of the worst? Happy National Barbecue Month, everybody.
Part of the reason we want to do this show today was to discuss what something I actually talked about a few hours ago doing an advance call with the show is barbecue, because everyone thinks they have the world's best barbecue, and everyone thinks that if you're a country band, when you come to town, you want to eat barbecue. So at some point,
it goes hand in hand, you know.
And for us, after the first couple of shows of barbecue, you're like, we live in the South where we have our own choices of what we like for barbecue. So
that is right.
So that's a thing. But we talked about, we were going to talk about this the other week, and we ended up talking about crawfish, which was a great fun episode, guys.
It really was.
Had a blast.
We'll have some stuff. They've got Bull Boss sending you guys the setup. So once we get those, we'll have to try them out and do a demo and talk about all that.
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
Well, look, I mean, I have to, before we go any further with this, as I put the show out and I'm watching it, I realized that Blasi kind of just backhanded complimented me with with the coloring of crawfish. And so here officially on the page, and I didn't interject everything that I like to do with crawfish. So you know what? We're just going to have a follow-up episode, and we had talked about doing this in Orange Beach, which we're going to have to do. And I'm straight coming to kick Blasi's ass. We can do it at the Floribama. We can have randos freaking judge these crawfish, unbiased, untouched.
Oh, this sounds great. This sounds great. This is beautiful. Bring it. Let's do it.
Game on.
Like I said, we were going to talk about crawfish we were going to talk about barbecue the other day, and we talked about crawfish. So today, let's talk barbecue, boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, like I was saying, everybody thinks they have the best, but there are some different qualifications to where they would all be considered good or bad, or some personal preference like music or any other art form or food is going to have personal palates and preferences involved. But there's still a common line that what makes barbecue good and tried and true and popular. You know, some of these places don't stay popular because they don't serve good barbecue.
Right.
So I guess we could just bounce around. I thought maybe we'll go through kind of a list of what other people think, and then we can kind of interject our own personal favorites. Or if you guys want to name your personal favorites and see where they line up with some of these lists of barbecue places, we could do that as well.
I'll tell you one place that you mentioned it right here off the top. I kind of want to start, not really the place you start with the best of list, but you mentioned going on touring and them catering and all of that. What's some of the worst barbecue, like somewhere that you've been that is like, you guys don't need to be serving barbecue? I mean, we don't have to get too specific. I don't want to hurt any feelings or anything like that. But, you know, kind of, have you had any experiences like that where you're like, geez, folks, y'all
missing the mark completely.
This ain't it.
Right.
I appreciate it, but this ain't it.
Right. And see, I love barbecue for sure. And I could about eat barbecue every day. It's usually my go-to. You can always get a piece of smoked meat and some beans, and that's enough to keep a man alive. And I always say that barbecue, because it's hard to mess up. It's really, I mean, if it's bad, it's not that bad. I mean, it really has to be really bad to be bad, in my opinion. Now, some people with a real refined palate would say, no, it's got to be from Black's, or it's not good, or it's got to be from Big Bob's, or it's not good, or this place is just, that's not really doing it. But I'm a lot of room for variation, in my opinion, because I like a lot of barbecue. But yes, there are a few that drop the ball. One, catering sometimes, if you're off somewhere there's no business trying to do barbecue. It's the same as if you go off somewhere and somebody has no business trying to do Creole food or seafood in North Dakota. You know what I mean? It's just why. But I will say majority are okay, and I don't really have a lot that I would think was just inedible. I mean, sometimes, it's just crusty, pulled pork, too fatty in a thing, burn up with sauce poured all over it to start with. I mean, that's like you got in elementary school. I mean, but even that's okay. You put it on to make a sandwich, it's fine. It's not as good as nice smoked meat, but you can make a sandwich and get by and put some slaw on it or this and that. But I will have to say there's one that stands out above all others.
Okay, I knew there had to be.
And I don't know the name of the restaurant. This has been a long time ago. And a friend of Blasi and I's, one Mike Gruenwald, a.k.a. Sparky, was on this trip with me. We had left Nashville and we're going to an Alabama-Tennessee game. It was a random. I had gotten home on a Friday night. I jumped up the next morning, and so this would have been early teens, 2011, 12, somewhere in there, 13 maybe. No, it was before 13 because we saw Wayne later that night playing after the game. So it would have been probably 11 or 12. And went over there. Sparky had some tickets through a vendor that he worked with through his company. We're in this, good seat, student section. Bama won, great. Wayne, we went and hung out afterwards, made our rounds, visited some of his friends in the parking lot. Then I saw where Wayne was playing, so we ended up at the bar where he was playing and stayed out way too late talking to him. Didn't get back till, daylight almost to the hotel. They almost didn't want to let us check in because we hadn't checked in yet and all this. So we crashed for a few hours. And then we head back to Nashville. And, this is I think I'm on Yelp. Probably early days of Yelp or something like that, or Food Near Me or something. I just Googled on my phone at this point. And there goes a barbecue joint. Now, this had to be maybe, I don't know the location exactly, but we're probably half an hour coming out of Knoxville, coming back towards Nashville on 40. And there's a barbecue joint. It's 2 or 3 miles off the interstate on the south side of the interstate. So we get off, we go down. He's like me, barbecue. We've eaten in barbecue in Nashville because Nashville has a ton of great barbecue. We've eaten everywhere, and it's always fine. And we thought we can always find something good to eat, a barbecue joint. So we get there. It looks great. Looks like your kind of place, little shack, kind of mom and pops type place. It's been in this little tiny town in central Tennessee forever. And we order, and it takes a while. Well, actually, now I thought about it, I got two. This is the same one, but so it takes a while. It finally comes out. It's on the trays like you got in high school with the little partition sections out, right?
Right.
And I guess I had ribs, baked beans, potato salad. That's what I always normally get, and slaw and bread. I don't know how you mess baked beans up. They were terrible. They were just burned up, just like they had been stewed for so long. They were charred and burnt, like not in a good way. Potato salad, bland, just nothing. And then the meat itself, y'all, it looked like they had cooked these things about 4 days before this and left them in the hot box ever since. The ends of the ribs, the meat had shrunk away, and the ends were brittle and charred where they had sat there and dried for so long.
It just all dried out.
I think the sweet tea was bad too. I need to get Sparky on here to clarify because he could remember a little better than I can. But this was by far the worst barbecue I've ever had, and one of the only terrible barbecue experiences I've ever had. And I don't know the name, but yeah, it was in Tennessee, a place that has good barbecue in Knoxville.
I pray to God they're not open anymore.
And they look like they had been there for a while, but a lot of times in certain places people get used to it, and it's just convenient. They're like, it's good, it's fine.
That's what they grew up with.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There are some places around where I grew up. A lot of these places aren't that good.
Right.
And you go back and you remembered as a kid, you would go there and you'd be like, ha ha ha, yeah, this
thought it was good.
Thought it was good. And then you go to somewhere like freaking Texas and you have the real deal stuff. Mm-hmm. And you're anywhere else and not just Texas. You can get good barbecue in a lot of places. Then you realize, man, that place sucked. And then you go back there as an adult later on and you try it again and you're like, you just completely disappointed. And it ruins the whole place because you've had some memories there, good fun memories, family, whatever, laughs. And then you're like, but the food sucked.
Yep. That's exactly, you're exactly right. Even where I grew up in Elmore County near Lake Martin, there were barbecue places, really our only places to eat near us. thought they were great. We ordered to go from there all the time, this and that. But now looking back, they were not in the top list.
It was nothing special.
No, and yeah, well, I guess I could lead that. So when I left home and went to Troy, Troy had okay bar. Where was our barbecue places in Troy? I know we had Countries right there on the corner there, but it was pretty. It was same thing. You thought it was good until you went to. Till I went. I can tell you this: I don't really remember Troy barbecue that well, unless I'm missing something I forgot about.
Well, and after we left, or about the time we were leaving, I think it was after, is when so Hooks, was started in Opp, Alabama, and then somebody got a franchise for a Hooks in Troy, and they do a good job. I mean, Hooks was always pretty dang good barbecue growing up, Was
that the one? Is that the one they put down there by the wall, the new Walmart down there on the left, and that little thing? Yeah, I actually did eat there a couple times in Troy after I was gone, going back and visiting Hussey and stuff, and yeah, it was good.
Yep. And so it's decent stuff. You know what I mean? They more, pork, chicken, ribs, that kind of thing. They don't get off into the beef stuff that much, but.
And a real smoker.
Yep. Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, Don Stone started Hooks and Opp, and that's what I grew up with. That was barbecue. Nobody, like my stepdad, I didn't grow up smoking meat. If we wanted, ribs, we wanted Boston mud or whatever, we went down to Don Stone there at Hooks and got it. And so that's the barbecue I grew up eating, and not saying it's the best in the world, but it was really good, and he had kind of a lock on the area, and it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I started messing around doing it myself, and really starting to understand it a little bit more. But yeah, Hooks is pretty decent, and their franchise has done well. And that place in Troy kicks butt, I think, as far as business wise.
Yeah, but that would have been like I said a little after. So while we were there, not really. I still didn't get the barbecue bug, and then but then when I started on the road with Wayne and ended up in Tuscaloosa, it was really where my barbecue education started. Because when I got to Tuscaloosa, obviously I have Dreamland, which can be. People think, well, it's too popular to be that good, but that's a misconception too. Just because something's popular and kind of commercial doesn't mean it can't be good either. Because Dreamland was solid.
Oh, those ribs are money.
There's a reason why President flew somebody there to get him a rack.
They do pork right.
Yep.
There's no debate from me on that.
And I love and I thought it was cool how they bring you a rack. You want a rack? Yep, want a rack. You don't really have sides. You got Golden Flake chips. They bring you a whole loaf of Wonder Bread or the Sunbeam bread there, whatever it is, and your sauce. And it was the red sauce. It wasn't really sweet at all. It was tomato based, kind of vinegary tomato based, tangy sauce. And yeah, that was great. But then I stretched out. There was a place called T's Wings and Things that was good. T was super cool. He would make a bunch of sandwiches and come to the bars when they were closing and sell them. How I met him. Then I started going to his restaurant.
Smart.
It was cool. Yeah, smart. He would sell $2 barbecue sandwiches at a box outside the bars and stuff. And he'd sell out every night. Genius.
Freaking awesome.
But then some of the real good ones there was one of my top 10 was there. It was called Archibald's. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of a barbecue restaurant called Archibald's in Northport, Alabama, right on the north side of the river in Tuscaloosa.
Never been there. Nope.
The whole thing was probably the cooking building. It was basically like at a baseball field, the concession stand at a baseball field. It was tiny. It couldn't have been 20 feet by 12 feet deep. One door to walk in, little counter, same thing. Potato chips, open barbecue pit on the back, make you a sandwich. Or just that, and they take your sandwich and dip it in some stuff. And then literally on the wall there is two pictures. One is like Bear Bryant eating there, and one is like Martin Luther King Jr. eating there. And that was the only two pictures.
What else do you need?
And
I mean, if you're there,
it was really like two people like that, two just iconic figures in the South, and they were sitting on these concrete benches, which were still out there, which was the only place there was to sit. It wasn't like there was a restaurant. This is my memory of this, y'all, too. SomebI'm not remembering this right, but it's been a long time since I've been, but.
Don't forget to leave a comment.
Yeah, for sure. Tell JR
if the handler is seeing things a little bit differently than it really was. Let us know.
It was a long time ago, and I was in a little different frame of mind most days back then than I am now. But yeah, so there's two just concrete park benches out there, and that's under a tree, and that was it. That was the place. But it was absolutely fantastic. Barbecue is one of the best, probably the best barbecue sandwich I've ever had. Still, and I only had a handful or two, but every time it was a treat to get to go over there and eat Archibald's barbecue. I mean, it's just plain simple. Weren't a lot of options, but man, it was done right. And I mean, the pit, you could imagine it with the wood. I mean, it looked old, like it'd been there since the 40s, probably.
A thing of glory.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And then there were several others around there. And then we were on the road by this point with Wayne, so we were traveling a lot. So I was getting outside of my normal zone. I would have traveled as a teenager or with my family or as a young adult before I had gotten out in the world. But right down the road from there in Coleman, Alabama, is Big Bob Gibson.
Oh yeah,
is world renowned, and he's probably on most of these top 10 lists on anybody's.
Well, that white sauce changed my whole life with cooking chicken.
Yeah,
that's what Alabama's known for, is that white sauce because of that.
It's so good.
Yep.
And the first time you go in there, they have more options, but it's still, a country. You got that country feel in there, and then man, it's just on point. They're shoveling it out. There's a bunch of people eating, but it's just solid. And
dude, that smoked
and,
turkey sandwich that they do there, that thing is unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah, they get off in the bird pretty well.
Yeah,
they've mastered the bird.
Let me pause y'all for a second. That's a good little thing for anybody listening. I am not from Alabama, so I'm very familiar with the white sauce. I've had it, haven't had it often. Walk us through the Alabama white sauce and kind of how you make it, if you make it yourself, kind of how you do it.
It's basically, because look, I use vinegar in everything that I do barbecue wise. Vinegar's a staple, so it's mayonnaise, it's vinegar. It's some sugar in there and a little spices. It's pretty simple. But really the whole premise, I think what's going on there, especially when you finish off chicken, like so you smoke some chicken for a while, and then you just baptize it in that white sauce. It's the fat from the mayonnaise all hanging out with that goodness, and it just locks in the juices too. So you get the flavoring in that vinegar and but that mayonnaise really just locks this piece of chicken up. And so you go to cutting on this bird. It is just moist, juicy. That vinegar is eased into that meat. Oh man, it's something special. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Just looking on here, it said this. I'm just googling up the original white sauce on Big Bob Gibson. It says since 1925, folks have been enjoying the unique taste of Big Bob Gibson's white sauce. Friends and family were first treated to the secret recipe sauce on chicken and pork at weekend barbecue, where boards were nailed to the trees for tables. It was an all-purpose sauce. Don't let the color fool you. Its tangy, peppery taste goes well in poultry, pork, seafood, and wild game. Its intriguing flavor complements salads and superb base for chicken and turkey.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So since 25 they've been doing that. I guess
that's crazy, man. Almost 100 years.
It really is. It really is. But it's basically just mayonnaise, vinegar, sugar, black pepper. That's the base.
Okay.
Yeah. It says Alabama sauce is made of mayonnaise, apple cider vinegar. Many variations exist, but typical flavorings include mustard, Worcestershire sauce, sugar or honey, garlic and or onion powder, and lots of black pepper. That's it. Good stuff.
Yeah. I love it, dude. I love it. It needs to leave the state of Alabama and come out and play a little bit in these other neighboring states like ours in Louisiana. So I'm going to be making some here very soon to go with some chicken just to mix it up, do something a little bit different
in it when you're done. Like just have you a thing of that made. Well, bam! Baptize it in there and let her sit off and just hang out with itself.
Put it in. Oh. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it in a bowl, and I'm just gonna, we're gonna truly baptize the chicken.
Lay it back.
Yeah, I'm gonna just lay it back. And then come back anew into my mouth. So yeah.
And I'm sure there are tons of other barbecue places in Alabama that we're not talking about that are all solid, because there are a lot of solid ones, and I'm sure there's some letdowns as well. But you mentioned neighboring states. One that gets talked about that goes with the Dreamland thing that gets considered now it's too popular to be as good as it used to be is Rendezvous in Memphis. Rendezvous Greek dry rub ribs were one of my. That's
unbelievable. I've been there, dude. It's really good.
Yeah, because we didn't do a whole lot of ribs growing up. It was mostly pulled pork where I grew up. But once I finally went to Rendezvous when I was probably a teenager with my grandparents going up to see Graceland or something, Game changer. Dry rub, Greek style dry rub, rendezvous ribs. I don't care how popular they are. I went
once and it left an impression upon me. It was so good.
It's
in Germantown, right? Isn't there one in there? Is that
correct?
Yep.
I think so. Well, no, I think it's downtown.
Is it down? Okay, yeah.
I have
been there. It was phenomenal.
And you go in, it's got the red and white checkerboard cloths on the tables. And it's a dry rub. They don't put any sauce on their ribs when they're cooking. It's a Greek seasoning, and I mean, just phenomenal. I mean, just as good a ribs anyway.
I've heard of it. I've not eaten there. I have a good friend of mine that lives in Memphis. He eats at all of those places. He's constantly telling us about them and sending us a picture and stuff. It's like, you don't have to rub it in, bro.
Right. Yeah. Well, and there in Memphis has a ton of them. All of the the Neely family. They were on television on the cooking channel and stuff for a long time, but they had those restaurants there scattered throughout the city for years, different family members, and they were all solid. A lot of good barbecue in Memphis. Then if you go back east, like I was saying, Lexington, Tennessee's got some good barbecue joints, home of Carl Perkins. Nashville had Neely's. They had some good Neely's restaurants there, but they had Jack's Original Barbecue, which was always good. But Nashville had good barbecue joints. Then if you keep going east, you'll hit that crappy one we were talking about between Nashville and Knoxville.
You better just hammer down and get on over to the Carolinas before you
get over to east, keep on rolling.
Far east to Bristol, Tennessee. I remember there was a great barbecue joint there, and I don't remember a lot of these names. I'm sure I could look them up, but
yeah.
And then the Carolinas, same. I don't know any names, but I've had some really good Carolina barbecue, and they do a different sauce over there as well. Yeah. And I like sauce. Right. Some people don't like sauce, but I like sauce, and sometimes I like dry rub. It just depends. I like it all.
I'm the same. I'm the same way when I cook. When I cook ribs, pulled pork, all that stuff. I sauce it sometimes, ribs especially. Sometimes I sauce it, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling, that day. If I'm just going to
just get real froggy,
just go with the dry
rub it and sauce it. Let's get funky. I mean, I usually end up doing that to some degree.
Yep,
absolutely, yeah.
And on the bottom side of the state of Mississippi, because there are a ton of great barbecue joints throughout Mississippi. Again, I don't have a lot of the names, but I know I've had some really good barbecue in Mississippi and never really been disappointed. But one actually on one of these lists I found is tied with the next one that's on the bottom side of the state is the Shed in Ocean Springs, Mississippi.
I've got that on my list from an experience standpoint as well. Like, that's just such a cool place, and it's really good barbecue.
I've heard it's very cool.
It is
very, very cool place.
I was there first time I ever went. It's in Van Cleve, Mississippi, and a buddy of mine lives literally probably 3 miles back there. Doolittle lives back there.
Oh, yeah.
So he lives right behind the Shed back in there. So he's the one that told me about it.
Interesting.
Dude, I missed Buddy Guy played there at the Shed literally the day before I was there. I was so mad. And I was like, how did I miss this? So, but they had music. People come up on boats on the river. So, people come crawling out of the woods, people pull in by cars. It's just a cool place, man. From an experience standpoint, cool. It's top of the list.
They won a lot of championships at Memphis in May, from there. The guy that I look forward to having my buddy JD Marsh on the show. I want you guys to meet him. JD and I have done a couple of podcasts. He's with Breggy Bomb Barbecue Sauce, does their competition team and all of that stuff. So we've broken it down. You can listen to that show. You can go back and listen to it. I'll put a link below. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link below in the description. He and the Breggy Bomb team, they do competitions there at the Shed. Like, they have a steak cook-off and stuff like that. So he was there recently. They filmed some content, did the contest. I don't think they did as well as they wanted to. It was the steak competition that they were doing, which is that whole deal. JD walked me through it. It's crazy.
Back to Nashville, one I forgot about. I was looking through this list and I forgot. And this place was newer, but man, it was good. Puckett's Grocery in Nashville.
I've heard of that place.
That's good stuff. Let's see, that's on the list. St. Louis and Kansas City barbecue. I've eaten both. Some different places there. Always good. Like I said, again, different sauce, different flavors on stuff.
Same as more sweet in Kansas City and St. Louis.
Molasses.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then same, like you said, when you go out to Texas, there's a ton in Texas and blacks. Blacks I've always heard was really good in New Braunfels. I think I've eaten there before. Can't remember, but I've had a ton of good ones. And again, they all vary. It depends on what you get too and what you're in the mood for. But even Cooper's in the stockyards right next to Billy Bob's in Fort Worth, it's phenomenal. And everything's bigger in Texas. So you walk in, they've got just these two huge cookers where they're keeping the meat warm, and they pull it up and you point to what you want. It's beef rib, pork rib, just anything you could think of, and how many pounds, how many ribs you want. They'll cut it off. You want it wet or not, and they'll dip it in the sauce and put it in butcher paper, and then you go get your sides and everything. But tons of good barbecue in Texas. I don't know if I'd say my favorites because I've had a bunch there. And in your state of Louisiana, I know when I lived in Houma, we had Big Mike's, was solid, and Rendezvous. Not Rendezvous, Voodoo Barbecue, which Voodoo, I know they have them in Baton Rouge and several other towns. I remember they used to sponsor a thing. We'd play at the PMAC Center. We'd play before football games, and that was our catering. I was always excited about that because it was always solid. But what are some good Louisiana barbecue that I may not know about, or listeners may need to check out when they're driving through Louisiana?
You've got to go find good barbecue in Louisiana. So I'm going to help everybody right now and just kind of cut the list short. The best place that I've eaten barbecue in the state of Louisiana. Now, the problem with it is it's kind of complicated as to how you get it. It's just like in Austin. So like Franklin's Barbecue, you have to stand in line, or you get in line early. You better be there, and if they sell out, they sell out. That's that. Well, they do it every day. Well, the place that I'm talking about in Louisiana, it's called Gonzo's Smokehouse, and it's in Luling, Louisiana. Not Luling, Texas. It's in Luling, Louisiana.
Like the Luling Bridge, where the Luling Bridge is?
It's right down, yes. You cross the Luling Bridge, and you go down that road along the levee, and you go down probably about 2 miles down, and it's there on the right. Now, they only serve food, I think, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, something like that. Go to their Instagram page. You can order ahead of time. It's Gonzo's Smokehouse is the name of the place. Fantastic. They have awesome brisket. They do some unique takes, kind of give a little Louisiana swing, a little kind of Tex-Mex swing to things. They make a lot of their own sausages and stuff like that. I think it's Thursdays they have smash burgers. It's Smash Burger Thursdays, and it's brisket and brisket smash burgers. They're freaking, they're awesome. But it's a small place. You better be prepared before you go there.
Right.
And know if they're even going to be open. Go to their Instagram page. You can talk to them. I've done it whenever I was down there doing insurance work. I was like, I hope I can make it. I want to go. How early do I need to get there to be in line so I can get my stuff and roll? And, you need to get there 30, 40, 50 minutes before they open, or you're not going to get whatever it is they're serving that day. Right. It's just that simple.
Good to know.
But Gonzo's Smokehouse in Luling, I would say, is the top spot that I've had. If you like Texas barbecue and that style, it's more like that, but it has some sweet stuff kind of thrown into it. That's down here in South Louisiana. Look, I'm not going to lie. I've always loved TJ Ribs here in Baton Rouge. They cook baby back ribs just fantastic. I mean, that was kind of my standard as a kid. That it was like, if the ribs were as good as they were at TJ's, then then I'm in. I'm totally in. And I mean, that one is not a bad memory. I've eaten there recently. Still good. So
there you go.
So TJ Ribs is just tough to beat. You can't go wrong there. There's 2 of them in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
A third place in Louisiana is in North Louisiana. It's just outside of Natchitoches. It's called Grayson's. Grayson's Barbecue. Little hole in the wall, old pecan and hickory smoked barbecue. Their pork is unbelievable. That's what they're known for. Pork, chicken. Get their pulled pork. It's just dynamite. But it's in a little town called Clarence, right outside of Natchitoches. You've got to go get lost to find this place a little bit, but it's pretty much the only show in town. Little small shack kind of restaurant building, smokers rolling out there. You know, you pull up, it smells like sweet hickory and barbecue sauce. I mean, the place is fantastic. So definitely Grayson's Barbecue. Check that out. And then there are some other places that have popped up. I know that there's some good places in Shreveport. I haven't eaten at any of them that have blown me away or really are worth mentioning, but there's a couple of new places that I've heard about that's opened up. But that's about it. I mean, that spreads it through through the state. There's a place here in Baton Rouge called BRQ Barbecue, which does some different takes on Louisiana cuisine and barbecue. So it's kind of
incorporate some stuff with some good dishes there. Yeah.
They do some different stuff like that. And on that episode, Texas Barbecue with JD Marsh, he talked and mentioned some places in Houston, like a place called Blood Brothers that is doing some kind of new age type of stuff, I guess, for lack of a better term. They're kind of bringing in different flavors. They're just kind of remixing foods. It's not just your regular old smoked stuff. So that's pretty much the list in Louisiana. Now, I know I'm going to get murdered on this I know I've left some people out and all of that. So feel free to leave your comments and y'all can debate all that stuff in the chat. I'll jump into it, and I apologize to anybody I left off of the list.